So this is my first time entering a Pwnisher render challenge. I keep seeing the incredible work put out challenge after challenge, and I keep wanting to join in, but found it hard in the past to find the time. This time, however, I've got some time to spare. I wanted to challenge myself and try something outside the usual stuff that I've done. Something a little more stylized with elements of 2D animation sprinkled on. The concept was to do something set in a colorful beach city type environment like Venice or Miami, with lots of colorful buildings and murals, where the hero is a graffiti artist facing a boss that's a literal art mural come to life. The hero character started from a base mesh in Character Creator 4. I brought him into Maya because I don't really know Character Creator 4. Clothed him, broke his leg, gave him a new, better leg, painted him in Substance Painter, shaded in Arnold, then brought him back into CC4 and used AccuRig to quickly set up his joints and skinning, then mapped an auto control rig in Maya. But none of that worked, so I scrapped the whole thing and started from scratch in Maya. For the boss, I started from an orc base mesh, sculpted details in ZBrush, painted him like one of my French girls in Substance, and this time for real rigged him with AccuRig in CC4 and set up the auto control in Maya. I also went back to ZBrush to sculpt an angry facial expression and mapped it into the rig as a blend shape. Happy, mad, happy, mad. I shaded him in Arnold, turning off his self-shadowing and specs so that he appears pancake flat, like a painting on a wall. The characters and the car were then animated by hand traditionally in Maya. This is where I decided I wanted to start getting a little bit more stylized and colorful, so I had the car reveal some engine noise automatopoeia to help sell the speed of the car. The text used was a reference to the initial D manga, where the protagonist drives the same kind of car that I'm using in this render, the Toyota AE86. Hachiroku. I wanted the boss's hand coming out of the wall attempting to grab our hero, so I used a polycut modifier on the body and animated the slice to reveal the hand over time. For the environment, I scattered around some Art Deco Miami Beach style buildings and textured them in Substance Painter, projecting some uncommissioned images of abstract art murals on the sides of each one. I scattered some assets on the ground using Mesh inside of Maya for some procedural control. Hand scattered some foreground elements in front of the camera like debris, spray cans, and a donut, the usual stuff that you leave lying around in front of a camera to create some parallax, and blew some wind on the palm trees with a wave deformer. For the main building, I rendered out a pass of isolated boss character and reprojected it onto the building as a diffuse texture, so that he sort of looks like he's painted or trapped in the wall. I layered it in between some other mural textures and animated the UVs of these totally real symbols of a totally real not made up language so that they rotate into place. The 3D effects were all handled in Houdini. I simulated the car crashing into boxes using the wood material fracture and RBD solver, then brought that back into Maya and retimed it to look slow motion. The spray paint, exhaust, and larger scale smoke sims were all handled in Houdini as well with a pyrosolver, then rendered in Arnold, Solaris, and comped on top. And the paper was simulated using Vellum and brought back into Maya to be rendered. I had fun adding some 2D animated effects in Photoshop, adding some car light streaks and anime style motion blur lines to the car and character, as well as some liquid pop animation on the mural symbol and a dust impact effect when the character lands. Lighting was done entirely in Arnold. I more or less just used a dome light, directional light, and a few supporting lights to cheat some extra bounce. I broke up the render into a bunch of individual render passes to give me more control in comp and to allow me to render individual passes faster as needed. I also rendered Cryptomatte AOVs, which helped a ton with creating on-the-fly masks and comp out of any object in the scene as needed. This helps me a lot because planning ahead is for suckers. And I baked the depth of field into the render because the entire composite was done in Nuke. The sky, clouds, and background were created as individual elements in Photoshop and assembled in Nuke by being projected onto a cylinder and cards and tracked using the Olympic camera. I added edges using a filter road around the character vehicle and boss hand passes to give a very subtle toon-shaded Borderlands-ish look to the main animated elements. For further integration around the boss's hand, to help sell the idea that it emerges from the wall, I rendered a quick utility pass using the slice where the hand meets the wall. Mapped some noise into an eye distort around the hand on the wall to create some micro displacement effects. The lens flare was created using the Nuke auto flare gizmo, tracking an image of a lens flare core to the sun's position, and of course subtly masking out some of the foreground elements using cryptomats to suggest some interaction between the environment and the sun, where the hotspots wrap around the edges of the objects. I topped it off by adding a bit of chromatic aberration around the edges, and just cranked up the saturation to 11 on all passes, because I'm an avid enthusiast of colors. And there you have it, all that work amounts to this 5-second clip, which all things considered, I'm overall pretty satisfied with.